Hello and welcome to another Nutanix Weekly podcast from XenTegra. This is your host, Phil Sellers. This is episode number 82. Happy to have you joining us again today, and I'm happy to have a nice panel of folks to contribute today. First up, our illustrious leader of XenTegra Gov, Mr. Harvey Green. Harvey, how are you doing today?
I am doing pretty well. Hope you are too.
I'm doing pretty well.
Now, it's not nice to lie to the people.
Hey, this is a smile on the face, so it's going well, right? Yeah. Harvey's out working with all of our public sector customers. What's going on in that world that we should know about, Harvey?
Gosh, that's a lot.
Broad question.
That's a big box. I told you I compartmentalize well. That is a humongous box. I guess the biggest thing to drill it all the way down is just staying secure.
Yeah,
that's probably the one that we have the conversations around the most. Making sure that
staying
security
secure
is where it needs to be.
One of the pathways to that we've been talking with several customers about is automation. Things like Nutanix Calm, but other platforms as well. Taking the human factor out of it. That's one way of making things more secure and repeatable.
Yes. Agreed. It's the whole put two keys in and turn them opposite ways at the same time. And then stuff happens.
That's it. Multi-factor controls, right?
Yes.
Also joined today with Jirah Cox. Jirah, the resident expert, Office of the CTO at Nutanix. How are you doing today?
Man, doing okay. Been a while since we recorded because I think we're all pretty darn busy lately. So lots of good customer meetings, lots of good partner meetings, lots of good problems to go out there and solve.
Wait, who told you?
I was going to say, are we playing Where in the World is Jirah Cox today? That seems to be the game we're playing every time we catch up here lately. I know you're spending a lot of time on the road, meeting with customers, having those conversations face to face these days.
It's something I definitely enjoy doing. Yeah, for sure. Seeing folks kind of every week with, honestly, some recurrence of questions. Everybody's got some special uniqueness to their environment, but a lot of folks probably are like, hey, are people leaning in all in on, can Nutanix run my business? And the answer is totally yes, and we can prove it to you 25,000 ways.
Yeah, I know those conversations are happening in spades. They're making up probably half of the conversations we're having right now, at least that I'm having. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun to talk about what's possible with the platform.
Because usually, I mean, this might somewhat tee up our talk today. It's so much fun to talk about, like, hey, look, yes, of course, you can transform from X to Y, from A to B, of course. And, nothing is super easy. Lots of things are doable. It's all about let's find the path of most efficiency for you. But honestly, really, we all win more when we also get you something before that. When we get you something along the way that you didn't have before, right? Like, let's also increase your automation coverage or your self-service, or move to a lower cost per gigabyte delivery, or let's go stock that storefront with more high value offerings back to the business, or better cost governance, or rapid deployment, or something that was on the nice to have list, right? So we're not just answering the mail, taking care of business, but also like actually helping drive transformation.
Yeah, and a big part of that is moving the needle forward, right? Trying to get better business results. And that brings us to Ben Rogers, our man on the street. He is a Nutanix extraordinaire. Happy to have him on the podcast. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, everybody. Thank you for having me back on. I'm looking forward to the day's content. And man, I can say it's a busy, good time to be at Nutanix. I think 2024 and 2025 are going to be pretty bullish years for us. So glad to be here. Business as well, and always a pleasure to be amongst this crowd.
Yeah, we enjoy having you both, and we thank you for investing back into the lives of all of our listeners. But personally, into Harvey and myself. I mean, we enjoy these conversations a lot when we get to have them with you guys. And as Jirah said, we've got a great conversation today, talking about unified storage. One of the many capabilities, Jirah did a great job of teeing up all of the great business outcomes you can get with the Nutanix platform. But today's blog post is high performance Nutanix Unified Storage powers VDI. And so this is one that's near and dear to our heart here at XenTegra, because this is how we've paid the bills for a very long time. So let me get this shared out here for the people watching on YouTube, and we'll get started and dig right in. So high performance Nutanix Unified Storage. Jirah brought us the blog post today. It was posted by Sean Donahue, a senior solutions marketing manager, and Santosh Sirvol, another senior product marketing manager for Unified Storage. So want to shout out to Sean and Santosh, and thanks for posting this. Jirah, why this specific topic for today?
I love the way it highlights the platform, right? Like when I talk to customers about the Nutanix cloud platform, right? And for some folks, that's new positioning, right? Understanding that Nutanix is a cloud platform. And I'm like, well, if you think about it, right, clouds do like 4 things. So to be super, super reductive here, right? Run my VMs, run my containers, store my data, and hopefully offer some sort of a boutique, higher value service like a database as a service or automation pipelines, fancier functionality like that. And so this really combines kind of 2 of those things, right? Like run my VMs, store my data, make that all easier on me as the admin, as the platform owner, than it would be if I did those things separately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, as I tell people what we do at XenTegra, I mean, with EUC still kind of forming the core of what we do, this is what makes Nutanix a really powerful platform for us, is that you don't have to go multiple places. You don't need multiple different solutions. You can manage it off in the same place and get all of the use cases that you need. Because for us with the VDI use case, and we'll dig into the blog post more. I don't want to give it all away. We need some of these additional platform services to make things go. So, Harvey, as you think about this, I think back to our first discussions when I was a baby solutions architect here at XenTegra. I was just starting. Harvey was mentoring me, getting me started, and he started to explain this whole platform thing. And do you remember kind of how you positioned it to me back then?
Maybe I probably need some prompting, but I probably would have told you that this is something more along the lines of a Citrix or a VMware overall, in that you can use it anywhere.
Yeah.
It gives you the ability to be able to use it on-prem, in the cloud, back and forth, in and out, just any which way you need to flip this thing, you can do it. I'm trying to think of the time frame that this was happening. That's probably what I would have told you.
Yeah, if I remember right, I think the word that sticks out to me was how powerful it was.
Yes.
That specifically for what we were trying to accomplish in VDI, that it could meet all of the challenges that we needed and more. There was so much more that it could do. Little personal story. I think within the first 2 weeks I was here at XenTegra, I spent a day at the Durham headquarters of Nutanix and started to learn about the platform. And that's the day that it kind of unlocked for me that, yeah, this isn't hyper converged. This is a platform, and there's so much more value to be had when we think about it that way. simplification is a big part of that, right? I mean, Ben, as you think about simplification and the Nutanix platform, I mean, what would you tell someone approaching this for the first time who maybe just knows you as a hyperconverged platform?
So one, I would say, I think one of the things I'm starting to see come out of the company is beyond the hypervisor. A lot of talks about our hypervisor, the AOS platform, but I think now people are starting to see that it's beyond the hypervisor, and we have many more services that we can deliver. Specifically, NUS, our unified storage. I look at this particular content here, and this comes close to what I was dealing with at CNSA. Man, user profiles. How do I get those user profiles distributed across a wide area network? How do I make the VDI experience not feel like a VDI experience? Harvey worked with me a lot at CNSA, and one of the things we would coin is I want it in your face. I want you to hit that icon, and the next thing that you should see is the application in your face. And the only way to achieve that was managing the Citrix profiles and making the Citrix profiles available so that they were easily ready and able to be configured for the users. And so, part of that is how do you deal with that in the unstructured data? It's funny, not to detract away from the content, but as we were talking, I was slacking with our NUS experts in the background, and man, there's some staggering statistics when it comes to just unstructured data. So I'll throw one of them out there. 50% of the unstructured data is created at the edge of the network. That's kind of staggering when you think about the distribution of your workforce and how VDI is being implemented and how those users are consuming VDI and what they're using that environment for. 50% of unstructured data on the edge. That's pretty incredible when you think about that from a workforce day to day.
Yeah, and there's a link in the blog post here to a report from Statistica, and it's a staggering number. The amount of data created, captured, copied, or consumed globally is forecast to be 64.2 zettabytes, and that was 4 years ago. That was in 2020. So, their forecast was saying we're supposed to be up to about 180 zettabytes per year. That's a staggering amount of data. Jirah, as you think about that explosion of growth, I mean, how do we, 3-tier, I don't think can combat that. I mean, scale and the ability to move that data around is really tough. Like, what would you say for people trying to handle that kind of growth and they're unstructured?
I think part of it is scale. Part of it is almost the sort of natural momentum of data ownership. Right? Here's a very terrible, stupid analogy. In the last week or two, I had a power outage at my house that left my personal gaming PC sideways and unable to boot. Right? And I dorked around with it for like an hour, 2 hours. Some amount of time that I won't divulge publicly, longer than I want to care to admit. I couldn't fix it, right? I couldn't hold my tongue right to get Windows booting correctly on my old Windows 10 installation. And I just said, probably, heck with it, right? I've got a spare SSD sitting here. I yanked that one out, put the new one in, installed Windows 11. And have I wiped my old one yet? No. Have I migrated my data off of it? No. It's the cost value to me as the data owner there to confirm I can throw away that old stuff is higher than just holding on to it, right? I'll just keep on holding on to it and never finish migrating it, never finish knowing what's on there. But if I ever need something there, I know I can go back to it, right? So it's easier to just say yes and hold on to it forever. And we see that with our customers too, right? Which is, of course, teeing up the segue here, right? Of how part of our platform makes it easy to understand who owns what, how old it is it being used, is it being accessed, right? Because that's the only way, to your point, Phil, around how do we have a hope of bringing order to the chaos, right? Of data sprawl.
That's it. That's 100% it. I mean, I've got two thoughts. One, as you're talking, I'm thinking digital pack rats. I've met them. I've been I've been one of them from time to time. was rebuilding a NAS over the weekend and didn't think about backing up before I pulled some drives and wiped them. And, I haven't touched that data in years and I'm not really going to miss it. So I cried for a minute and then I moved on. I fall into that same category. Like, we keep data online for far longer than it may be useful or, according to compliance, maybe legally longer
than anyone would want it to stick around.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about specifically VDI here, but unstructured data problems as a whole, they come from the fact that we've got siloed different platforms. We've got, an inability to see what's going on in those. And because they're in different file structures and different ways of being stored, there's not really a way to get at that. So, Jirah, why don't you lead us through, I think it's the fourth paragraph. We're starting to talk about some data services that are important for us as we try to handle unstructured data.
Yeah, of course. And of course, to get us recentered too, right? Like, we're talking about unified storage in the context of VDI, just because that's the easiest, often one of the most easiest workloads to roll onto a new platform and get a lot of value out of it, right? Bring those profiles over across, bring those maybe departmental shares over, but then get those services like you're talking about, Phil, like instantly available, right? Analytics, right? To, like you and I just talked about, like analytics is the spotlight to shine on pack rat style problems, right? If something can tell me, hey, here's your old gaming PC SSD, here's the 3 files you're going to care about, and nothing else you've touched lately would matter to you, go copy those off and you're done. Man, that would be a hugely valuable service to me. Ransomware, of course, is one of our truly unique differentiators, right? Is like not just the value of the platform as like, yes, it can host your data shares, of course, but it can also host your data shares and tell you when they're being attacked and block the attackers and roll back to a healthy state and actually go on the offense against bad guys that want to get at your data, right? Which those are terrifying headlines, right? We see them all the time. There's some literally in the news right now as we record this that we want our customers to not be a part of, right? So more layers of defense is better than fewer, for sure. Lifecycle management, wisely called out here in the article about, and that goes back to how I opened about simplicity, right? Like patching all of this stuff and owning it as the platform owner should get easier on you over time, not harder over time, right? Or as you use more parts of the Nutanix platform, that should get more streamlined, not be a linear consumption of your time as an admin, right? And then of course data protection, right? Because the whole point is this is data that is important to the business, right? Therefore, I have to be able to have versioning over it, know who can get to it, have those strong kind of RBAC style controls, but also be able to say, yes, I can solve a problem, right? Yes, I can go back to 48 hours ago, 48 months ago, maybe, depending on the data set. So having all those kind of interoperabilities is key, right? Like is a absolutely must deliver to our customers style of outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And specific to the VDI, the ability to scale. Some of our largest deployments are supporting 50,000 seats. So one of the other things to highlight here is the fact that we do have that ability to scale here. It's scaling. Harvey, I'll throw it to you. Let's talk through the scaling a little bit. I mean, we've got the ability to scale at the core of Nutanix, but we've also got the ability to scale at NUS. Tell us a little more.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you've got the ability to just, I just fashion it as adding Lego blocks. My son wants a bigger Lego tower. He goes and gets more Legos and just stacks them up. It gets higher and higher until it falls over or he comes to try to chase me with it.
Maybe that last part's not a good analogy, but
That's funny.
But you've got the ability again, as we kind of talked about, and I was talking about how you can just make this thing bend over backwards for you. You're just adding, and it's already set up. The platform's already set up to take that. You can add different size nodes. You can, go storage heavy. You can do whatever it is that you need to do to give yourself the capacity and the performance that you need. And the platform just does it. It's already built in. Please give me more to do.
And in the same breath, you've got that lifecycle management built in. It's important to patch, it's important to upgrade, but all of this was thought out to be highly available, scalable, highly performant, with the lifecycle as part of that. It wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't a bolt-on. It's not another product. And so back to that message of simple, it's all integrated, and so it's a simple operation to be able to do those life cycle. There's more built in. I mean, Ben, I'll throw it to you. I mean, data protection's right there built in as well.
So what I think is really awesome about all of this is, if you've ever seen our customer journey, customers can start out with a small cluster, and then as they grow, they add nodes, the cluster grows. This is the same type of environment, and it even goes into those original clusters that you have. So one thing you talked about simplicity, I want to talk about flexibility. You can have one cluster that can deliver all these services for you. It can do the AHV for the hypervisor. It can do the files. It can do the container, and it's all managed under one management platform. So simple interface gives you all the services that you need and the flexibility to go as you need. And where that's important to our customers is, our customers, as their business needs grows, the technology behind that can grow as well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about from a technology and a delivery platform. Is it's just, as you're saying, Philip, it's built into the fabric of the platform. Right. But that's because, that's the way it's been designed. And that's to make it where it's consumable at a customer level. We realize that customers are going to need to turn on these features in phases. And we don't want to always have to ask them to buy more when they need to do it. Now, when they need to grow and they need to expand, of course, add nodes. In the cloud, you're just adding more capacity. And so that's really how, in my opinion, it's been thought out and been designed. And man, I see customers taking great advantage of it. And we're having to educate customers on that. I don't think a lot of customers realize when they buy Nutanix for a specific reason, and then over time they realize that, oh, I've bought an engine that's capable of doing more than what my original purpose was.
It's a great point. As Jirah said earlier, VDI is a great first use case, and it's often the gateway into more once they understand the platform, once they understand and see the power. I think that's a great way of teeing us up for the benefits. There's a graphic right in the middle of the blog post here. Of course, the blog post is linked in the notes for the podcast here. But simple, scalable, and enterprise class. That's what the graphic kind of points out. And then we dig into those key benefits. Ben, you hit simplicity on the head. That is absolutely one of the huge key benefits. We talked about performance. Harvey, you brought this one up. One of the things we didn't talk about was the data locality piece of it. That for us on a VDI standpoint is really key to great performance. For someone that's not understanding data locality, Harvey, how would you explain that?
I knew you were going to do that.
There's an inside joke, and I love this analogy, so I had to tee you up, man.
Oh, you got to tell us.
I have this little story. I'll try to keep it short, but I do it a couple different ways. Phil knows that I like to eat, so I kind of gravitate towards food analogies, but I'll give you this one. I'll use you, Ben, since I haven't done this with you before. As you thinking about sitting at home in your living room, you get hungry. Where's the fastest place for you to get something to eat?
Our refrigerator.
Yeah, your kitchen. Is that your favorite place to eat?
Yeah, on any given day, maybe not.
Exactly. So, how far away is your favorite place to eat?
About 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes. All right. We're going to do our best to make that 30-minute trip as fast as it is to your refrigerator. You ready?
I'm all ears, man.
All right. Let's see if we get you a race car out front. Will that do it?
Nah.
How about if I don't know, put an F1 driver in the driver's seat, and all you got to do is get in and let him take you.
Dude, you got to bring the cook to me.
Police escort, and we clear the streets.
Still not going to do it.
So, as we go through that, and I know that's a shortened version, but you think about all the things that you can do to try to speed the transport of data in a 3-tier architecture. You can clear the streets by using data prioritization. You can have your police escort, again, more data prioritization and actually using quality of service stuff. You can get your race car out front, 10 gig, 40 gig, 100 gig connections, right? You do all of these things, spend all the money on all of these things. No matter how much you spend, it won't be faster than having it right there on the same bus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a condensed version, but you can kind of see what I'm getting at there.
That was a great analogy, Harvey. I'm going to steal that.
Never faster than food in your kitchen.
But that's what's interesting about that, Harvey, is like I have a lot of customers go, how can y'all do all these things? How can you be a platform? And you have to remind them of where we started from. We started with data management.
Right.
And that's what makes it easy for us to have a files, a database engine, a backup engine. I mean, because we're managing the data at the core. And so, that's really what differentiates us in our platform from the competitive market. And we have to talk to customers about that, is that at the core, it's about managing the zeros and ones. And then from that, we can bubble up all these marvelous services like NUS. And that's what makes it possible, is because at the end, we're managing all that data in the background for you. And so you're absolutely right, Harvey. So to add on to the data locality, because we are managing the zeros and ones and what we originated doing and still do very well, we can make sure that data is where you need it. We can make sure that cook is in your kitchen cooking that steak so that it comes off the grill onto your plate at the temperature it was on the grill. So a great analogy, but I also want to remind the crowd that listens to this that that's really the nut of what Nutanix is that ability to manage those data and produce these services that go on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to wrap it up, I'm sure most of the folks listening understand data locality, but from a Nutanix perspective, if a virtual machine's running on a node, it's going to bring all of the data locally so that it's just as fast as possible. It's going to put that food in the kitchen. And that's really the idea behind performance and why VDI has always been such a great workload on the Nutanix platform. But efficiency's there too. When we talk about unstructured or unified storage, unstructured data on Nutanix, getting up and going, scaling up and scaling out, as we talked about with Ben just a few minutes ago, is really easy. And that adds to efficiency. There's a quoted statistic here in the blog post that file storage is 82% faster and object storage is 75% faster. And that's the deployment time compared to traditional storage. Why is that, Jirah?
I like to tell customers that I meet with, right, that we try to do our very best to never send a human to do a robot's job. If we can just ask you the bare minimum viable questions, right? Like, what IPs can we use on your network? And do we need to ask you questions about like maybe resiliency or capacity or protocols? Great, just give us that detail, and then we'll go deploy it for you, right? We try to never make things you go do this on Nutanix. It's give us the information, and Nutanix can go do this for you proposition.
Yeah, very heavily orchestrated. I love that. Never send a human to do what a robot can do for you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or it's at least a goal.
Yeah.
It's an intent.
Harvey, you hit this one a little bit earlier, but scale, flexibility and ease of adding infrastructure, and that's both the physical nodes and the virtual nodes inside of a NUS cluster. So that ease of adding things, but also here they're talking a little bit about other models to license. You want to hit that one?
Yeah. So again, you've got the ability with Nutanix to just spread it out as you need. So again, you can do that physically, right, with more nodes. You can do that also kind of logically with more nodes that are more storage heavy. You can use the cloud. You've got the ability to just do what's necessary as your storage demands grow, as you see, the needs of the business become much bigger, much faster. We're at the point where we're talking multiple zettabytes of data at this point. I even have to go back and think about where in the factor zeta is. So
I was just doing it in my head. Yeah. Like, why couldn't they be alphabetized? That'd be so much more helpful.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure what comes after that.
But you've just got the flexibility, and you've got a platform that has this built in. And to Ben's point earlier, it started as managing the data. We're continuing to talk about that just in a much, much bigger way. But if you are already doing that well, and you're compensating for growth, and you're compensating for different models of being able to do it all in the same platform, you just continue to get expected results.
Yeah.
Well, quick on that too, right? Is for scaling, is I coach customers around like, you can get the best team in the world doing a VDI design for you in 2024, and maybe you find some ratio of like I can put 100 users per node. And that's great. So that if I have 500 users, I buy 5 nodes, 6 nodes from +1, and I'm done here. And then over time, you watch that cluster, right? And of course, Windows updates, Chrome, security agents, right? And just like, who knows, like the Xbox store, like all these kind of things that will come for your VDI fleet, if you're not managing that golden image like super carefully, will drive your density down over time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so one other trick up our sleeve is the ability to say we can license this cluster on a per user basis, so that over time, if you need more hardware to keep your SLAs high for your user base, you can tie your licensing the same way you would with like Citrix to per user, tie your Nutanix for that cluster the same way to per user, so that now scaling out for more nodes to get more horsepower to run the same amount of desktops is just a simple go buy more hardware proposition, and not need to revisit your actual platform licensing with Nutanix.
Yeah. Well, and that also comes into our next point, which is business continuity. Using that same VDI model, you gain the benefit of having licensing for your business continuity for your DR plans. And so that's another huge part, but that's not the only thing we're talking about from business continuity. We're also talking about built-in storage features. So Ben, you want to take this one? I mean, NUS leverages that platform you're talking about, built on a solid data platform.
Yeah, and so what's cool here is we have recovery options at the file server level. So, obviously we have recovery options at the cluster level, the VM level. Now we're just bubbling that up to where if you got to have something that looks specifically at your files. I'd also like to bring 2 more items into business continuity. And Philip, you'll appreciate this. We were talking about the ability to run your business, and that also includes the ability to manage your employees. We have a lot of customers that are managing, just basic AOS, AHV today, and then they go and they turn on files. A lot of them have done this really stress-free. They haven't had to re-engineer the IT department because, again, it's a single platform. So a lot of the tools they're used to seeing, a lot of the screens they're used to seeing are just replicated over into the files area of Prism. So it makes it very easy to bring it on board and also get your customers who are and employees that are used to working in Nutanix, man, bringing on files. And there's value to that. And so, I don't want to oversee that where, again, simplicity and flexibility is really the name of the game. And from a business continuity aspect, we just bring that to the table as well, man, bringing services that are concentrated at the file level so that you have visibility into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, these two, scale and business continuity, really link together a lot. The choice of consumption models, the choice of licensing models, the ability to run anywhere with that consistent operational experience, no learning curve. I mean, there's so many advantages to that. You can run in AWS, you can run in your own colo. It's the same. It's managed the same. And the built-in DR is, that's a huge game changer too, because you're not having to relearn another console. I know we have a lot of DR conversations where we have to layer on a tool in other environments, and so it's another console to life cycle, to learn the vernacular and how things work. I mean, there's a huge learning curve there sometimes. The next thing, the next two options here: integrated security and ransomware protection, and then also data visibility and compliance. Both of these tie back to Nutanix Data Lens. And if you haven't heard of Data Lens, that's the built-in analytics platform that goes along with NUS. Jirah, I'm going to throw it to you because I think the ransomware protection is really key.
For sure, right? Like for really kind of all data storage in general, but all the more so, I think, for VDI, right? Because VDI is kind of where users live on the network. That's where you have better than even odds of bad stuff getting into the network and trying to see what it can get access to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it is by far some of the most critical places to have good security, good ransomware monitoring, good visibility in place, but also therefore the easiest ones as well to get all those things, check all those boxes with Data Lens, right? Which is our SaaS-based analytics platform that watches your data. Your data never leaves your environment, never crosses your firewall, but we watch the activity on it with our eye in the sky, and then react to those conditions, right? To tell it, hey, look, we see an attack happening. Let's go and block the source IP, block the source user, take a snapshot of the cluster, and then automatically roll back to a prior snapshot as well. So we have the forensic preservation of what was going on, what was done, but also can recover back to a prior healthier point in time, right? So that the business gets back on its feet faster. My favorite thing to talk about on this one is that when we previewed this feature at .next in Chicago last year, we talked about a 20-minute or so period of exposure from start of attack to really end when we've recovered from it. When we actually shipped this feature and had a third party validate it, they actually clocked it at like 14 minutes. So even faster than what we were promising. So like no humans get out of bed, which is always my favorite part, right? Is like let's bug humans less for processes that we can automate. Good automation, right? 2 keys to turn and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think it's absolutely a brand new. If you've been looking at Nutanix and files for a while, it's a newish feature in the last year, but it is absolutely one of the most compelling reasons to think about hosting any flavor of data on Nutanix.
Yeah, and as you said, your eye in the sky, right? It's got global data visibility. It says here in the article, looks at permissions, risk visualization. I mean, all of that, and it gives you that view that we've been missing. Where is the stale data? Where is the thing? So it also plays into your tiering and the ability to make more efficient use of your storage platform.
So Philip, I want to add to the concept of the data visibility. I talk to a lot of customers that when we talk to them about unstructured data, a lot of them go, I have no idea what's out there. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have a tool that could, espionage my network, tell me where shares are, what are in those shares, coming from, managing IT departments and data management. That's terrifying to hear when we have, IT leadership tell us that. So this tool alone, from the four things we mentioned, the data visibility is what really gets people to, you can go out there and find my data and tell me where it's at. And that's been huge win for us as far as, talking to customers about the services of Data Lens.
Yeah, we talked, we did a webinar a week or so ago around Microsoft Copilot, and Copilot, like the universal search that came before it, it uses that access from a user to surface what they have access to the data that they have access to, and then draw insights from it. And so, a lot of times there's security through obscurity. They don't know that they have access. They may have access to a share where all of the users in the company have read-write access, which is not great. That's pretty horrible. But when we turned on universal search in SharePoint years ago, it surfaced that problem in an organization I was working with. So, it's one of those things where locking it down and having appropriate permissions can't be understated. Now that we're getting assistive technology, to Jirah's point earlier, why send a human to do what a robot can do? With AI and generative, AI particularly, we're starting to move into that territory where those permissions are really critical, and security through obscurity doesn't really work anymore.
I'm not sure it ever did, but it definitely doesn't now. Yeah,
that's true. Well, and so let's back up to the ransomware protection for just a second. We did another podcast about iGel a week or so ago, and a lot of times when we have a ransomware incident, sometimes the VDI environment is the one that isn't affected. It's the one place where we've got golden masters that were sealed, and so we can spin those back up with a level of confidence that they're unaffected. So your point around user data in those shares, we want to make sure it's equally unaffected. So Data Lens is a great insurance policy around all of that data, because in practice, we have seen a reliance on VDI during and in the immediate aftermath of a ransomware attack.
it's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. I guess you could make an argument, right, that a well architected VDI environment for most customers is sort of the most. It's not fully stateless, but it has compartmentalized statefulness, and it's actually maybe close to the most declarative part of the infrastructure, right? So like respinning it is a lighter lift than a lot of other parts of the data center.
Yeah, especially non-persistent. I mean, that really is kind of at the heart of it, right? You reboot and you get a pristine image. It's kind of beautiful in that way. So I know we've had some wins on behalf of our customers, using that. Well, and we can't go without saying a Nutanix conversation without talking about NPS is like peanut butter without jelly. Does that work? Jirah, I'll throw it to you for closing us out on benefits. Superior customer support.
It is job number one, right? Like, absolutely true. Customers enjoy and love running Nutanix. Customers tell other customers that they enjoy loving and running Nutanix. And it's a huge part of why I'm here. It's something I love telling our customers about. And I'll say this as we highlight more and more of these years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years of 90 plus NPS customer satisfaction ratings. And of course, we're coming up on a big, I'm sure we'll make a lot of hay about when we hit 10 years in a row there. As we hit these milestones, what I love to remember is where did we start out, right? During this 7, 8, 9 year period, as we've maintained this level of customer support and fandom, really, we've like 10x'd our customer base, right? So tons more nodes in the field, tons more clusters in the field, much larger support staff. And I don't know the exact number on like cases per day on average handled, but I guarantee it's higher than it was 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And so that, I remind customers, speaks to our commitment to maintaining this as we grow. Like anybody can do it, flash in the pan one time as a sampling data point. Maintaining over time takes dramatic intentionality and investment.
So said a different way, it's easy to scale the Nutanix cluster nodes. It's harder to scale the Nutanix support experience, and yet you're doing that well as well.
We do both of those things. Thank you, Phil.
And I've got to add to this. I just did a tour of our support center in Durham and talking to support leadership. Man, these are some smart people. And the way that they go about evaluating our engineers and onboarding our engineers and looking for future engineers. I mean, we've got a partnership with East Carolina University going on. And so, I mean, just really you begin to understand, you see the score and you know the score is impressive, but when you start to see how they have the engine working and what goes into keeping that engine running as good as it is and making it better than what we are now, it's really impressive. So an employee of the company, it just really fascinated me when I got to see the inside workings of it and the people that are managing. I mean, these are some smart people that are running that part of our company. And so I was highly impressed with that. So I think the score speaks to the people that are running and working in the department. And once you meet and see those people, you understand why it is a 90+ score.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. As a partner of yours, it is impressive to go and see and talk with the folks in the support organization. At the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned I spent a day at the Durham headquarters doing an EBC with a customer. And one of the highlights for me was they brought in one of the support agents, not the manager, although we met him, not one of the managers, not one of the VPs, one of the inline folks answering tickets, working with customers. And she was absolutely one of the most impressive people I have encountered in many years. I was really, really impressed by her. So my feedback to the folks in the room was bring her back and bring her associates back. It's really the best way to show off what you're doing. Well, gents, I really appreciate today's conversation. I mean, to me, NUS inside of the portfolio is a huge part of why VDI runs so well. It just answers another critical question around profiles and user data. And there's so much more value there for Nutanix customers and potential Nutanix customers. So if you don't know or if you need to go deeper in on some of these topics, please reach out. You can always email sales@XenTegra.com. That'll get you connected with your account rep. We'll be glad to work with you and go deeper, one-on-one sessions, education. We have workshops and webinars, events, and things like that all the time. But please do reach out if we could be of help. But on behalf of the XenTegra team, myself and Harvey want to thank Jirah and Ben. We appreciate this conversation. Thanks for nominating the conversation, the blog post. Shout out again to Sean Donahue and Santosh Savol. We appreciate you posting this out for us to talk about today, and we look forward to having another conversation very, very soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for having us, Phil.